Hey friends, welcome to class tonight. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to jump in if you're catching me live. If you are catching the replay, hashtag replay, and drop your comments in here anytime. We'll see if this lets me. Sometimes I have issues with Facebook events, so we'll see if it lets me stay on the whole time. If Facebook cuts me off, sometimes Facebook likes to cut me off when I do these things, praying that doesn't happen. But if it does, I will hop on here and start where I left off. So we're just gonna go with it and see what it does. For some reason, Facebook doesn't like me doing long videos in events, and I'm not sure why. Maybe somebody else who knows more about that knows why, and so if you do, let me know. Otherwise, drop a comment, let me know where you're joining me from, how you're doing, and at any time, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments, and I will get to some of them in the video, and then some of them I will come back and answer afterwards. So I have a lot of stuff to share with you guys tonight, a lot of content I want to go through. Again, it's hopefully Facebook isn't going to kick me off. They do that sometime in events, and if it does, I will hop back on here and start again. So Arizona, steamy. Thanks for joining, Heidi. So I'm going to get started with the information. You guys come on in, hanging out. South Carolina beach time. That would be amazing right now. So hey, another Minnesotan. All right, Lauren. I'm going to give you guys some information. We're going to talk about how stress affects our health and just some things to keep in mind and to kind of identify if that's an area of your health that has been affected by stress. And hopefully we can catch some of this proactively, but we're going to talk about ways to really come back and hit it afterwards too. So I shared some of this with my Oily Friends team, but I'm going to go a little bit more in depth and cover some more things as well. If there are some things that maybe I'm going a little too fast on or something, feel free to drop it in the comments that you need some clarification on something, or if you have a question on it or something like that. So I like to try and both share from my personal experience and the experience of my clients over the years, as well as from research and things that I've really dug into in my naturopathy studies and things like that. So we're going to kind of combine all of that. Hopefully Facebook will let me hang out for a little while and not have to get kicked off. So we're going to talk about the ways that stress impacts your health. Really just being aware of those things, and then we're going to talk about what to do about it afterwards. So I want to start out by just talking a little bit for those who aren't familiar with cortisol and what cortisol is, because we're going to be talking a lot about cortisol tonight. And cortisol is a stress hormone that is released when our body is in that fight or flight mode. So we have two nervous system modes in our body. It's basically fight or flight or rest and digest. And this is a normal part of our body's processes. And so when I talk about cortisol, sometimes it's going to sound like it's the bad guy. In a lot of ways it is, but it's a part of our natural process. The problem is that over time and through the different kind of lifestyle that we all have been enduring, especially the last couple of weeks and stuff, it might just have it's just not a normal way. So we're going to try to really talk about taming that down and supporting the body systems and the nutrition that goes along with it. So we'll kind of go into that a little bit more. I've got some categories for you that I'm going to talk about. So we're going to talk about how it affects different nutrition levels. And so when we talk in holistic health, we talk how hi Wanda, we talk about how the nutritional levels have a lot to do with a lot of health issues. So this might be different if you're not used to holistic health. This might be different than what you're used to, because a lot of health issues, physical and mental, can be traced back to nutrition issues or deficiencies or things like that. And so we're going to talk a little bit about those as well. I'm going to start talking about some of the things, the ways that stress affects our health, and then we'll talk about how to combat that. So for one thing, stress affects our health by depleting our B vitamins. And this is very important when you understand what role B vitamins play in our health. Research shows that chronic stress depletes B vitamins in the body. Why is that important? because research also shows that those with anxiety, depression, and psychotic episodes have significantly lower B vitamin levels than healthy people that they study. And what does this mean? This means that this depletion of nutrients, all of the wide range of B vitamins, has a direct impact on our mental health. So in some research, what they found was that B vitamin supplementation was shown to reduce workplace stress by 20%. So they had people in the same workplace, and the people who were given B vitamin supplements had 20% less stress reported in the research. We also know that folate is one of the B vitamins, is linked to mood very strongly. We've also seen in orthomolecular therapy, there are decades and decades of research showing niacin, which is a B vitamin, to be used successfully to treat depression in high doses. And low morning cortisol is also a deficiency of B vitamins. So cortisol awakening response is also known as CAR, which is basically what happens with your cortisol when you wake up. When you wake up, your cortisol levels should be at the highest they are at all day long, and then they will go down gradually from there, being at their lowest ideally when you're ready to go to bed. I've seen a lot of tests from a lot of people over the years, and it's not very common for that to happen anymore because of being wearing on that body's process over time for so many years. So anyway, the research on this cortisol awakening response found that when they supplemented B vitamins for 16 weeks, they improved their cortisol upon awakening. And so basically, if you feel like you can't get out of bed in the morning because you're just still tired, and that could be just because you didn't get a restful night's sleep, it could also have to do with your cortisol and that it's not where it should be when you wake up, which means B vitamins are going to be the first thing you want to look at. Another nutrient that we need to focus on when it comes to stress is magnesium. If you think about the symptoms of magnesium deficiency that I've shared on here on my pages and stuff, they tend to come on worse when we're under stress. The eye twitching, the migraines, the headaches, the muscle spasms, the heart palpitations, the high blood pressure. That is because those are a natural part of a stress response in the body, the fight or flight. But those processes require a lot of magnesium in the body. So what they found is that when people are in those states where they're under that stress and their body's responding like that and just utilizing all of the magnesium inside of them, they're excreting a lot of magnesium in their urine. They're testing it out and seeing that a lot of it's coming out because they're using it. So stress is a really fast way to deplete magnesium, especially when you're not supplementing. For me personally, I went years and years and years without knowing this, and it's part of the reason why I had preeclampsia during most of my pregnancies. It had to do with magnesium levels. And so and I had a lot of migraines and things like that, and if I was under some really mega stress, within moments it would trigger a migraine. I had no idea it was connected to magnesium levels at the time. So let me read you a couple of things that I've studied and found in my research. Let's see here. So this loss of magnesium for this fight or flight response also does go back to the demand on the body for cortisol. So let's see here. There are 325 biochemical enzymes in the body that are magnesium dependent. They completely depend on magnesium in order to happen in the body. Many of those are actually nervous system enzymes. So strong connection with magnesium and stress right there. Vitamin C is another one that we have to talk about. So here's the way that I remember it. The body, the parts of our body are strongly connected to the nutrients that they carry or that they depend on. So the adrenals are our adrenal glands in our body produce cortisol. That's their job. They produce adrenaline. They have other roles. They produce aldosterone, which is a hormone that helps regulate our electrolytes in our body and our minerals and things like that. So because our adrenals are highly dependent on vitamin C, they are actually like for animals. So here's a story. This is how I remember it. There were these indigenous tribes in Canada long ago who were finding out that they were getting scurvy, which is vitamin C deficiency that can cause death. They finally discovered, and they didn't know why, but they discovered that if they ate the adrenal glands raw of a moose in the wintertime when they had no access to anything fresh to provide vitamin C, they would actually prevent scurvy that way. And that's because our adrenal glands are so highly dependent and just a great source of vitamin C, but they can't work properly without vitamin C. So I shared a post on my page yesterday, I think it was, of how if I don't stay on top of my vitamin C after years and years of strain on my adrenals from lack of sleep and from having lots of babies and all of these stressors and things of life, then I can feel it. And one of the ways that I can tell that I am very low on my vitamin C and electrolytes and things is when I wake up feeling that really, really dizzy feeling. And that is like the adrenals are like, okay, we can't make electrolytes. We can't maintain that balance right now. We need some vitamin C, and vitamin C works just like that for it. So because when I learned all this in my naturopathy studies and stuff, I realized that that was exactly what was going on with me, and I knew that I had to support my adrenal health. I began a protocol, and that was many years ago. That was probably 7 or 8 years ago that I started, and I started on at least 4,000 milligrams of vitamin C every single day. And I have maintained it throughout those 7 years, and a lot of times I do more if I'm under stress or things like that. We'll talk at the end about different dosages and different amounts and different brands and things like that about supplements. But for right now, I just wanted to show how that is a strong link to stress as well. So it's something to keep in mind. All of these things are like, okay, hey, you know what? I've been under a lot of stress lately. I'm really going to need to stay on top of these things if I'm going to come out of this healthy. Another thing we need to remember about stress is when our body is we're requiring our body to produce cortisol and things like that when we're under stress. The body has to use those building block hormones that are pregnenolone and DHEA in order to make all of our hormones. That means our adrenal hormones and our sex hormones and things like that. So that has to come from somewhere. And what happens is, over time, this thing called pregnenolone steal, where the body is stealing the building block hormones that are meant to go towards making progesterone and estrogen and testosterone and things like that, and it's putting it towards making cortisol instead. And so over time, we're getting this steal from our having that hormone balance because too much of it is going to making cortisol. So a lot of times it's very common for me to have people come to me and message me, call me, whatever, and say, my cycle is way out of whack lately, and I don't know what happened. Maybe it's that vitamin I started taking, maybe it's that whatever I started using. And I go, what has your stress been like lately? And most of the time, it's significantly different. When there's a very noticeable, direct change in your hormones, in your cycles, or something like that, it can be from stress because it impacts it very quickly. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. Another thing, I found this research last week, and when I found this research, I went, I have to share this with people because in the coming months, we're going to see some big things come up if we don't stay on top of this. And I'm all about proactive health. So if you know somebody who, well, everybody could be affected by this. So feel free to share this video. This is something very important. Stress also depletes serotonin, okay? So there's this research out there that shows us how they discovered that there's this action of launching cortisol. It's actually linked to serotonin transport. But when this happens all of the time and the body's constantly launching cortisol under stress, then the serotonin transport, bringing serotonin where it needs to go, it doesn't happen anymore. This is what the research concluded. It said under chronic stress or depression, the capacity for increase in serotonin transporter has reached its limit. due to the chronically elevated blood cortisol level. So basically, when your body's under stress and your body's under stress and your body's under stress, that serotonin feel-good hormone is done. It can't do it anymore. So I look at it like this. When you get to that point, you know you're at that point because all of a sudden, stressful circumstances, they hit you harder. Like there's no filter or there's no padding. It just hits you full force. And that's because serotonin acts as like that padding to pad those stressful circumstances with the happy hormone. When we lose that transport of serotonin under chronic stress, we lose that padding and things hit us really hard. And so it's really important to catch this ahead of time. And I want to talk about that. So supporting our body nutritionally and supporting it through other ways that I'm going to talk about is so, so important to prevent this. We know what we have in the United States for situations and people dealing with this chronically. And we can do something about that. And I think it's really important that we do, especially with what we've all gone through. When I'm talking about stress, I just want to clarify, I'm talking not just about things that we perceive as stress, but anything that demands cortisol from our body, okay? So when I talk about stress, I'm also talking about things like exercise. If public speaking, doing a class where, you know, like quite a few people are going to show up and you're a little nervous about that, your body's going to produce cortisol. I'm talking about that too. I'm talking about anger that produces cortisol. I'm talking about shooting a gun. Like when you're out, like today, I was out practicing, you know, whatever. My body releases a lot of cortisol when I do that. When I get excited, anxious about something, the same process happens, okay? And so also your body perceives physical things as stress sometimes. So that could be surgery, childbirth. Those are physiological stress on our body as well. So keep that in mind when we're talking, when I say stress, okay? I don't just mean like, oh my gosh, that was such a pain to go through, or oh, that's too stressful, or whatever. Obviously, that's a huge part of it though. And some people, our body does perceive exercise even as stress. And at certain points, for people whose adrenals can handle it, it's totally fine. The body, research shows that the body does recover. But for some people, and this was my situation after years of draining on my adrenals, exercise made my body worse. And certain types anyway and stuff like that. So just navigate that carefully and remember that as we're talking about this. One other area I want to talk about, and I hope I'm not going too fast. I don't want to take up too much of your time. This replay will be available anytime afterwards too, so if you feel like you want to go back, if you missed anything, it's going to be here for you to do that. The last thing of the area of the body, obviously there are many more, but the one that I want to talk about is how stress affects your gut. Do you ever notice when you're in a stressful situation and you either just like have to hurry up and go to the bathroom, or suddenly you're constipated? It's either one way or the other. This is how stress affects our gut. We talked, remember, about fight or flight, which is the sympathetic nervous system mode, and then there's the rest and digest, which is the parasympathetic mode. So here's what happens. The parasympathetic mode, the rest and digest mode, is designed to help us rest and to also digest food. This process slows your heart rate, increases intestinal activity, and it relaxes sphincter muscles in the gastrointestinal tract. Guess what happens when we eat or in fight or flight? Our digestive system is not prepared to handle food. What happens then is that food particles do not get broken down all of the way, and then those gigantic food particles enter our bloodstream, and our body perceives them as an invader, and it starts launching an inflammatory antibody reaction. This is where food sensitivities and food allergies come out, as well as just chronic inflammation. This is a main cause of fibromyalgia and some other inflammatory autoimmune issues like that. So when I'm talking to, it's also like, this is where skin issues come out, reflux, heartburn, things like that. So when in my family, when my kids or me, we're stressed, we try to make it known that you should not eat when you're feeling like that. And yeah, you gotta do whatever you gotta do to get in that resting mode so that you can eat your food. And I tell my kids, my family, we have not had McDonald's for 14 years. And so most of my kids don't even know what it is, but they know from driving around, and they know when I say, hey, like that good healthy food that I just made you is gonna be like McDonald's in your gut if you don't work out your stress first. So we're gonna take some time and we're gonna calm your mind and your body down so that your body is going to be able to accept and digest those healthy foods that I made for you. And we work through it. I would rather go all day without eating when I'm stressed than harm my body that way and eating when I'm super stressed. Those are times where I'll just make sure to get lots of liquids and stay hydrated. So just something to keep in mind too. Don't force yourself to eat when you're stressed. If you need to use some of the things we're going to talk about to get yourself in that relaxed mode and then start eating. You notice though sometimes like when you're stressed and you don't even feel like eating, or you're stressed and you feel like eating chocolate only. So we're going to talk about a couple of things. The first thing I want to talk to you guys about is that keep in mind that your emotional region of your brain is connected directly to only one of your senses, and that is your sense of smell. Your sense of smell is the only sense that is connected to the limbic region of your brain that is where your emotions are. So we can really target those really, really well and fast by using aromatherapy. So that's my first trick for you. And we have a couple of oils in our house that we use when we are going to eat a meal, just to make sure that everybody is calmed and they're in their rest and digest mode. And the ones that I have, oh, I must have only got one. Nope, I got two of them. The ones that I found that have worked best, and I forgot to turn my camera around, so I don't know if it'll still work for me to do that. No. So the ones that I found, I'm going to share with you guys. I wonder, I might still be able to do this. Yep, okay. So these are the ones for my research that I found help the body do that really, really well. So this one is called, can you see it? It's called Hinoki. Let's see if that one, without the glare. Okay, so this one's called Hinoki, and this one is called Hung Kwai. And these are my favorite. This one's actually my favorite. I use this one more than Hinoki. I just can't get the glare off. So anyway, Hung Kwai, I will literally just take this and open it, have everybody smell it, and I will set it right on the center of the dinner table to make sure that we are able to just kind of relax our bodies and be calm so that we can digest our food. A couple of other things, if you're there at nighttime, we have these for nighttime. We have a Calm CBD Roller with lavender and some other good oils, as well as a THC-free isolate CBD. And so we roll that one on when needed, and we have a Tranquil roll-on. We keep these by our bed. We roll this on, but you know, anytime too, traveling in an airplane or anything else that might be stressful. Everybody's kind of got their own favorites. My daughter has Stress Away, and she has put a spray top on that so she can just spray it on anything. Can't have a talk of stress without talking about Stress Away. And some other good ones. Gentle Baby is a good one too. I really like this one. We diffuse this one a lot. So lots of options out there. Of course, we've got lavender, things like that. So just really checking into those. First and foremost, accessing the limbic region of our brain. I want to talk about the nutrition and the things that we talked about too. So the first thing I want to talk about is magnesium. Now I just want to tell you guys, one of the most difficult parts of my job is seeing people use cheap things that aren't working and saying holistic health doesn't work. So when I talk about a certain product or a certain brand or a supplement that's very specific, I'm doing it for a very, very good reason, and I'm doing it after years of experimentation and research and things like that. So what I found over the years, and for myself and for my clients as well, is that we talk about magnesium a lot when it comes to stress, right? We talked about it for all of those things. to stay ahead of it, we really need to keep supplementing every day, and it can do so much for our health. The problem is that a lot of people are using cheap magnesium isolated supplements, and they really don't do anything for the body other than sometimes loosen up our stools. And that's great too, but we need something that our body is actually going to absorb into the tissues and play the role in there. So in my experience, you know, I've had years of migraines and muscle twitches, and my story involves a lot of those kinds of things. And I pretty much tried every single magnesium supplement out there. And so I started using a combination at first when I was optimizing my magnesium levels, and that worked for me. And now I can't go a day without taking the one that I take every day. So the one that I just will not go a day without is Mineral Essence. I know some people are like, it's nasty, and I don't care, because it does so much for my health that I don't care how horrible it tastes. I'm not really getting good light. Sorry guys. This is Mineral Essence, and this has a lot of things in it besides minerals that you would find in other mineral supplements in order to actually increase bioavailability. So your body's actually going to absorb this, and you're going to see a difference like this with more than anything you've ever tried as far as magnesium goes. We've had great testimonies. So I don't like to share it too often because I want to make sure it doesn't sell out, because I need it all for me. So I'm just sharing you guys with that. Keep it on the down low. No. Anyway, all right, so that's for magnesium. And one thing I want to note too is with any of these things that I'm going to be talking about as far as nutrition goes, you have to give your body what it needs. The FDA does not give us the recommended daily allowance, is not what our body needs in order to take care of, you know, years of not supplementing and years of wear and tear on our body and things like that. So do not be afraid to use more until you figure out what's going to work for you. When I first started, I was doing, I think, twice the dosage recommended on the bottle of this, as well as some magnesium glycinate that I have on my website store. And I still do more than the recommended dosage on this bottle every single day. And I've been doing that for years. And I can tell instantly for me if I'm just kind of like having some, you know, foggy brain or anything like that. Also, I will notice within 10 minutes of taking that a difference. So we're going to talk about B vitamins as well. One of the things I want to make sure you know is that you know the quality, not just get a cheap B complex. When we're taking our B vitamins, sometimes we need to use higher doses of some of the specific B vitamins like we talked about. However, we should always add in a B complex too, to just kind of overall get the B vitamins in their specific ratios to each other. Yes, we do use Mineral Essence for our little kiddos. My 6-year-old has been taking it for a couple of years off and on. We don't give it to him all the time. Sometimes we switch it up with a product called Mega Kale, and just because it's pretty rough, but we found that we put it in organic pineapple juice, it's pretty good. So that's the best we found. It's not bad that way. So this is the B vitamin I take. This, you know what, the lighting is just not gonna, is too much for me, I'm sorry. So this is called Super B. I'm not sure if that's gonna work. Super B actually has some plant extracts in it that make it different than other B vitamin complexes that are actually super supportive of adrenal health as well. Very targeted to adrenal health. And so this one's been super great for me. And the folate in it is not synthetic folic acid. Sometimes there's been some weird labeling with the FDA, and they're changing even the natural folate to folic acid. So it's really hard to know unless you talk to the company. So we checked into that, make sure the folate actually comes from organic citrus peels in this one. So we like that. Vitamin C, we talked about vitamin C. Honestly, as long as there isn't sugar in your vitamin C, like a refined cane sugar, vitamin C is gonna be great. There are a lot of options out there for you. Whatever you can do. For me personally, I do this vitamin C powder that I have on my website. I wonder if I turn the light and I can show you guys these a little bit better. So this is the vitamin C powder that we do. No, that's probably not gonna work. This is just from my website store. It's just a plain old powder, and we do that. And you can also do, like, we have some vitamin C, Super C tablets that we take as well. I'm just not getting any luck with it. And then I have like a liposomal C, that's a liquid C. Sometimes it's just really easy and quick to take that to get high doses, like when I'm in bed and not feeling right or something like that. So the magnesium in mineral essence isn't a form because it's not isolated. It's actually just literally straight minerals from the Great Salt Lake. So there's not any it's not an isolated form, like, you know, the forms that say magnesium glycinate, magnesium oxide, magnesium citrate, those are actually isolated forms. This is not an isolated form. It's a naturally occurring form, so it's not one of those forms of magnesium. And then, yes, and honestly too, if you guys go to my website and you click on recommended supplements, I have a whole list of the supplements that I pretty much use in my family all the time. So, honestly, whatever somebody prefers as far as vitamin C, if it's tablets, chewable, powder, chewables tend to be iffy with the ingredients that are added to it. So you really got to watch that carefully, just to make sure that there's no refined sugar, because our body, our cells actually, refined sugar and vitamin C compete for space in the cells. And so if you're adding in sugar with vitamin C, the sugar's probably going to win over for that space in the cells, and the vitamin C is not going to. So any vitamin C that has refined sugar, like cane sugar in it, is going to be a complete waste of money. But so like Young Living sometimes has Super C. It's been really hard to get vitamin C lately. I know it's getting better now. There's a chewable vitamin C that Young Living has that my kids take. And so that's got some of the acceptable forms of sweeteners in it that we are okay with and things like that. So otherwise, what I do is, because I told you that I take 4,000 milligrams of this every single day at least, so I will put this in my water. I actually have it right here. I will put this in my water, and then I add these Vitality drops for electrolytes, but it also gives it a lot of flavor, and it's stevia sweetened, so I'm not going to get any sweeteners that I'm not okay with, any of the artificial ones or cane sugar or anything like that. So this helps sweeten up the ascorbic acid vitamin C so it's not sour, and I drink that every single day. So no, I have not heard that fruit does. I've just heard that it's the more refined, which, you know, like there's some you know, debate back and forth on that, but for me personally, I take and I weigh everything in science out with the creator and creation and how he made things. And if, you know, if fruits are made in nature and things like that, we've got to believe that they have any factors that help balance out what science would isolate and say that they do negatively. Does that make sense? So like sometimes what happens is they will isolate a constituent from a plant product, and they will say, oh my goodness, you know what it does? It does all of this harm and it causes all of these issues. But when you take something straight out of nature, God already thought of that, and he has these cofactors in there to just help balance all that out. And so that's how I look at it with all of those kinds of things. Okay, so a couple other things really quick I want to talk about. Remember we talked about how stress affects the gut. So for that, what do? Well, we talked about not eating until you're not stressed. We want to make sure that we prioritize probiotics as well as digestive enzymes. So on my website, the recommended supplements, there's also some probiotics and enzymes listed in there that we use and we take every single day. The enzymes are going to help your body break down the food proteins and particles smaller. So even if you're like, I'm not stressed anymore, your body still might have trouble doing that. So enzymes, adding some enzymes in is going to help make sure that your body breaks down the food enough to where it's not going to cause that reaction that we talked about. So that's something very important for gut. One more thing, we talked about pregnenolone steal, we talked about the body taking up all of these things and using them for cortisol. One thing that has been so helpful for me, and I hesitated for a while on it, that I want to share with you guys is this little supplement called Cortisol. And so let me see if I can turn this and show you guys what this is. Let's see here, I'm not really good at this here. Okay, so this is called Cortisol, and Cortisol actually has a lot of really cool plant products, herbs, and things like that in there to help our body say whoa to the cortisol. So I was doing some public speaking events and I was really nervous about them. And my mentor said, you need to take Cortisol before you do these things. And I was like, why do I need to take that? And she was like, because you're putting your body in this fight or flight mode and you need to calm down. And, you know, I was having some effects from it. And I was like, I can't do those kinds of things because my body just reacts really bad to them. And so she was like, no, you need to tell your cortisol to, you know, tame it down. And I was taking a lot of magnesium and I thought that that would help and that would work by itself, and it didn't. So I started taking Cortisol and it helped really, really well. I could literally feel the difference. So then I started, when I was going through a phase of being chronically under stress, like we all were probably, I started taking it every single day. And I lost 5 pounds of cortisol weight, which tends to be in your belly area. And that was my experience with it because I knew it was cortisol weight. I was like, I didn't have it anywhere else. It's been amazing. So what I started doing was when if I would have a season, or whenever I have a season in my life where if I wake up and it's just like, boom, fight or flight, there's something going on, or there's this or whatever, I have to do that. I will take this in the morning. If at the end of the day, I went, I am not going to be able to calm my mind down, or like, that was so stressful, I just can't even get over it right now, I will also take it at night. There are some specific instructions on the bottle. I personally don't follow those. I am much more a proponent of listening to your body and getting a feel for things yourself. So that's just my take on that. It's definitely something to look into. It has been absolutely my new favorite thing. It's totally changed things for me. So I don't take it consistently. After a couple of weeks, I'll take some time off of it, just take it as needed. But then every once in a while, I'll go back on it if I feel like I've been in that more difficult season, and I will definitely see a difference. So some of the things in there are some herbs or plant extracts and things that I wouldn't recommend during pregnancy. So that's something to just kind of keep in mind. And Tiffany takes it at night. See what it works for you to take it. Some people just say that it really helps their brain just kind of stop thinking of all the things at bedtime and actually just go to sleep and sleep better. Helps Tiffany sleep. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, it's great. So those are what I have for you guys today. Just kind of keep that stuff in mind. Paula, I would just encourage you to do your research on the herbs in there. There are very few things that I personally would say no to during nursing, but that's just me. So, you know, kind of look at the herbs and things in it and decide that for yourself. So I will go like, I'm like, okay, you know what, this has been really harder. The next couple weeks are going to be really stressful. I'm going to take it every single day. And then I might kind of get off of it for a while and just like, oh, today's going to be really stressful, or oh, that was a really hard day, I'm going to take some at bedtime. Just kind of like that, just listening. For me personally, and maybe for Tiffany too, I don't know, I can tell, I can literally feel what it's doing. Like if I'm having that brain buzzing where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm under so much stress right now, I can feel the difference in it. And so some people don't. Some people feel nothing from it unless they've stayed consistent with it for a few weeks. Everybody's in a different place. And you know, like I said, I did years of working on supporting my adrenals after all that before I started with this one too. So yes, the lightheaded dizziness, it's horrible, right? It's just, I used to get it a lot, and I remember like I just would wake up before it was time to wake up and just feel like I can't feel like this today. You can't even feel like you can get up to go to the bathroom. You know, it's just really rough. And so one of the things when I talked about your adrenals producing hormones, aldosterone is the one that helps regulate the electrolytes in your body. And when the adrenals are really struggling, they have a really hard time supporting the electrolyte balance in your body, which has to do with inner ear health and function and things like that too. So when that happens to me, it tells me that my adrenals are crying for help and they need some vitamin C, they need some electrolytes, and some hydration too. Like, so I will just do the electrolytes, lots of vitamin C, like 4,000 at one time, and then water, and just down. and then within half an hour, I am good to go. So cortisol, nope, you don't have to take it with food. Take it right away in the morning if it's something that you decide you need in the morning before you have any food and things like that. So you're right, Paula, kids are under a lot of stress. I feel like that's something very important to talk about. I feel like that's really something that maybe we're all kind of combating our own stressors right now, and just places that we haven't ever been to in life. And so we've got to remember with the kids and stuff like that, we've been using a lot of the oils with our kids, a lot of the, we've upped our kids' magnesium, upped their vitamin C. We have increased some of the other things that we do for them. And we've definitely been putting a high priority on the oils. One of the ones that we've been using a lot, and that comes up when we run their scans, like the Itobi scan on them, is grounding oil. So we do a lot of grounding oil on their feet too. And grounding is just like, you know, helping ground those emotions and things like that. So that we have definitely had to do that. And you know what, like, for honestly, I feel like, Deanna, I don't know if this is you, but for me, anytime I take something that's kind of new and, you know, just stuff that I haven't had before, I'm just like, oh, how am I going to feel? I can't take it when I'm going to do anything else. It never did that for me. I wish I wouldn't have waited so long. So just start with one and just kind of see how you feel. And, you know, it's not something like a cleanse or something where you want to be home and make sure you're, you know, under some predictable situations before you start taking it, at least with my experience, a lot of experience that we've had. So I hope that was helpful to you guys. I hope that it's just, my prayer is that we are all supporting our body this way. And I want to just tell you, for me, and because this page is Healthy Families for God, that, you know, we, over the past couple of months, I have spent more time reading the Word and in prayer than I have spent in a long time, which I'm glad for, and I'm so glad that I have that. And I've just found a hunger deeper for the Word and the encouragement in God's promises. And so obviously, you know, I encourage you to just dig in so deep with that. And what I said one time is that every situation that we go through, what we focus on is what grows. And so when we focus on God's promises, those are going to grow, and we're going to see those more often than we're going to see the more difficult and the stressful things. Not that those don't exist anymore, but we're going to handle them better. And then we have the nutritional and the physical and the emotional side of it as well. We've got to get spiritual, emotional, and physical, all aspects of it, and we have that here. Super amazing blessing for this. So yeah, so if you go to my website, healthyfamiliesforgod.com, click on, I think it's resources and then recommended supplements. I'm going to go back and add it into the video caption as well. So the hormone that regulates electrolytes is called aldosterone, A-L-D-O-S-T-E-R-O-N, aldosterone. I think I spelled that right. Yes. So anyway, you'll have lots of fun digging into that too. So excellent, Deanna, love that. That's where our answers are in the Word. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope this information helps you. Praying that you guys all just stay on top of this and you're able to use this time to just support your health and go out there and just really share love and just all these good things with people who need them right now. It's a great time to do that. So blessings to you. Have a great night.